side I get to see too often is the mow walking and me not driving it. It's a little windy here today, but it's dry, which is the main thing. What we're doing is we are cutting some second cut grass here, whether it's for dried out silage or maybe haylage. That'll depend very much so on the weather, but we're going to mow it out, leave it set for a day or so, and we'll probably ted it out then on day 2ish, again depending on the weather. So there's very little left in this field, only a small bit of it left. I'm going to get the drone up, get a bit of footage of that, and see how we get on. Okay, so rather than just have the usual music playing over this bit of drone footage, I said I'd voice over a little bit of it just to kind of have something a little bit different. A couple of questions I'm always asked whenever I put up a video with the mower walking, especially when it's on the 6.4, is people ask why do we use it on the 6.4, like as if that the 6.4 wouldn't be fit to drive it. And it's got some huge benefits using it on the 6.4. One we're actually seeing now, which is the turning circle of the 6.4 is much less than in the 6.9. So that's a benefit, especially when you're doing short ground, small areas at the end of corners in the field. To be able to turn them all around quicker and get back into the cut saves you time. So that's one benefit. The other benefit it has also is that it's much easier in fuel than the 6.9. It's only a 4-cylinder engine that's in it. It's producing roughly around 125 horsepower, so it's got sufficient power to drive the mower, no problem at all. Like the power requirements for these mowers is roughly around is it 75 horsepower? So we're actually going to use the 2850 on the mower. It's one of the reasons why we changed the gearbox around, that it's not 1,000 speed anymore, that's a 540 speed that drives it. And by doing that now we're going to use the 2850. So we will have, maybe even this week, depending on how the weather goes, we'll have the 2850 in the mower and we'll get a bit of footage of it working it. The biggest issue that the 6.4 would have is that it is quite heavy, the mower, especially this is quite hilly ground, and especially with all the rain we've had and the ground being wet, it can tend to sometimes on extreme hills it could tend to maybe mark the ground a little bit. It just hasn't got the same weight that the 6.9 would have. So that's one benefit for having the 6.9 in it. But other than that, there'll be no problem. So as you'll see, the 2850 will be able to drive it, no problem. But yeah, I just said I'd make those couple of comments and maybe just have something a little bit different in the video other than just having the music playing and not hearing anyone talk. So yeah, that's it. So you'll see now in a moment some nice footage as we go to pull out of the field once we're finished. We're almost finished here now, and there's some lovely footage and views just of a little bit of the surrounding area, so you can watch out for that now in a moment. Yeah, so enjoy the rest of the video.
Criticized myself for trusting lies. I know I can't hide, 'cause then I'd be alone, stuck on the inside. The heart doesn't need a castle, it needs a bridge. Been so scared that I'd unravel. Brick by brick, I built these walls. Now I know that I'm enough. Just watch me tear them down. I'm gonna tear them down. If it couldn't break your heart, is it really love? If it can't tear you apart, is it really love? Just watch me march towards the battle. I'm gonna tear down this castle. I'm gonna tear down this castle. I'm gonna tear down this castle. If it couldn't break your heart, is it really love? If it can't tear you apart, is it really love?
Now, so we got that finished and mowed. I just come in actually for that last piece in the middle of the field there. So pressure was on to try and get the bit of drone footage before it was all done and dusted. Yeah, lovely heavy crop of grass in this. Now you can see there's quite a good stem on it. Still some leaf in it as well. When you go down into it though, there's some wet heavy stuff as well. So yeah, it's going to take a bit of drying out to get this all dried. It's Saturday now, we're not going to touch this for a few days. Forecast for early next week is good. Whether it stays like that's another thing. So plan is to let it sit now until Monday, ted it out on Monday. If it stays dry, maybe ted it out again Tuesday evening, and we'll bale it up then around the middle of the week. We'll see what it's like. Yeah, but there'll be a lot of grass, a lot of bales on this, because it is a heavy crop of grass. It's a relatively clean crop of grass. This was sprayed earlier in the year. We had it was part of our first cut silage, so it hasn't been touched since that. So it's basically on the ground now 2.5 months. So yeah, it's just time to get it off the ground. It's probably the heaviest crop of grass that we have to cut still. So yeah, let's see how it works out. Ground conditions is fairly good. Yeah, it's fairly dry considering all the wet weather and rain we've had. So but this is dry ground anyway. So anyway, next video you'll see will be probably tedding it out. We'll see what it looks like when it's tedded out. Yeah, so until then, see you in a few days. Okay, so we're over tedding this out a little bit earlier than what I had expected. So we mowed this out Saturday, just early afternoon. It's now Sunday evening. We've had an absolutely scorcher of a day here on Sunday. So yeah, dried out really, really nicely. The ground even dried out a lot. So seemed a good time to come over and get it tedded out. Weather is showing good for the next few days. So we'll see what it does, as I said in yesterday's video. But yeah, got a wee bit of drone footage, and I'll put that up now here at the end, just of tedding it out. And we'll come back to it a little later in the week and just see how it's going on. But yeah, you can see even what was really, really wet yesterday, it's starting to dry out. The matted, what would be the dead grass in the bottom, is really drying out. There's a lot of green in it, so it'll make really nice haylage, hay, whatever it's going to be. We'll have to just see. So bit of drone footage, we get that up now, and then we'll move on to the next part of the video. tedding, and we're up now getting the barley harvested. This is the last of the spring barley. This is actually the last little plot of it here. There's about 2 runs up the field. You can see some of it has lodged with some of the rain and heavy winds that we've had over the last number of weeks. But it's not fully bent down. It's only just leaned over. So combine is lifting it fairly clean, which is great. Yeah, so bit of footage of that, and over the next few days you'll see us baling straw here, hopefully, along with whatever other jobs is going on. So busy few days coming up on the farm.